We are back in the game, baby. Good to see you guys.
Good to be back, man.
Yeah, we almost said that in unison, Chris. You want to do
Jinx.
Unison is not a sin, so don't worry. You'll be all right. Well, we can only get better from there. We're just a couple guys who love our wives. We love our families. We love spending time with our families. And we want to give that up just because we're entrepreneurs. In fact, we want to do both. We want to do them both really well.
This is going to be a good one. Building authentic relationships. The how, the why, bust some myths. It's tough as guys, right? We just talked about the number of things we have in our lives that we're responsible for, our wives, our kids, the income that we generate. A lot of guys just don't have time for this. And frankly, a lot of guys say, you know what? Not only do I have time, I don't really want to dive deep. It's kind of weird to get close to a guy. We just want to tackle this subject and talk about what is this about and why do we need authentic relationships in our lives? Should I say it that way?
Yeah, that was a nice little accent there. I like that, Chris.
Guys get creeped out when they use the word relationship. I have a relationship with you, Michael McGreevy.
You do.
I don't want relations with you, Divya. I just want your friendship. Don't you guys love accountability groups? I mean, come on. Who's met an accountability group they don't like?
It's so awesome to get to spill your dirty secrets every week and just relive your weaknesses and sins.
Yeah, I like freaking people out. I always think of like, what could I bring this week that would just be a little bit deeper and darker and freaky more than anybody else in the group, so that people could be like, whoa, like these guys are a bunch of sinners.
Don't you think those coffee shop meetings, first of all, those tables at coffee shops are too close for guys to sit around? It's like, back up my space, man. Why is this so important in our lives? Why are you guys so important to me in a totally non-gay way?
Are you talking to me?
You too.
For me, it boils down to one word, and it rhymes with rust.
Bust?
It's not bust. It's trust. I just can't be authentic to share deep, dark secrets with people that I don't think have the best intentions for me, or they care about my story and where I'm going. I don't think we're here today saying that if you're in an accountability group, that's not a good place for you to be. But all I can say is we should be in groups of people and building relationships that are based on trust. Yeah, I think that's huge. Trust, right?
Yeah, trust is huge. But let's take a step back. Why does this even matter? Why is it important that we have authentic relationships with other guys?
You know, I think there are just things that, frankly, we need to be able to share with other guys that either we don't bore your wife with, or you just don't have the ability to share with your wife. She's not a guy. She doesn't get you. She doesn't get how we work sometimes, right? And so, for me, it's like being able to come to you guys at any time, and you're my 3 a.m. call if I need to just say, hey, man, this is going on, and I'm struggling here. How does this work for you? And those are things we just have to have in our lives. Otherwise, we're kind of an island into ourselves.
For me, having that group of guys like you in my life, it makes me dig deeper and go after the things that I feel called to do, because I feel like I'm not alone on the journey.
Yeah, man, you're touching on something there, because accountability, I think, means a different thing to different people. And I got to be honest, it's changing for me what accountability is. When I'm around people that are like-minded and that stretch me and want to grow, like, I want to be better. And that just wanting to be better kind of holds me accountable. I mean, that the old model of accountability that I used to experience is you show up and ask yourself a set of specific questions. It's kind of like sin management, right? Like, did you screw up this week or didn't you? And I don't know, that just did not move me forward. It was more of, how can I avoid my sin, or how can I put it together and package it so it doesn't make me look too bad? It was missing the point. So for me, accountability is more like when I'm in relationship with guys and we're real together, it's because we want to all be better. It's not because we want to mitigate our screw ups or something.
You know what? To kind of keep on riffing off of this and these authentic relationships, and not that we're bashing a Bible study or an accountability group, but I remember personally, I've been a part of a few of those, and when I moved here, being involved in a group and being around a table with a handful of the guys and mostly strangers, talking through stuff on a weekly basis, like you're just sharing, it was pretty formulaic. Like it was a template. Like, okay, we're going to go through this book this week, and this guy's going to teach, and he's going to just kind of exposit for a while, and we'll maybe ask a couple of questions, and we'll end with prayer because people have to share stuff, and then boom, 7:00, everyone's got to leave the table and go. And it just felt like it was not authentic. It was not life-giving. And I remember leaving that group, and I might have felt guilty for a little second, but I actually reached out to a guy who I knew from the church who would come every once in a while. I knew that he also lifted weights and worked out a little bit. And I just struck up a conversation. I said, hey, instead of that group, you want to just get together and we'll kind of build a little garage gym and do a little garage church time together every couple of days a week. And man, we had so much more fun, but a trusted relationship built there because we were intentional. Every time we do that, we would talk, in between sets and stuff. And we would always end it with praying for our wives and our kids together. And over the course of those couple of years, there was like a major issue that we had to deal with together. And frankly, I don't know if that would have happened if we hadn't had that kind of bondedness to just do something together and, being around and kind of getting out of a Bible study, which sounds bad.
It wasn't a Bible study, but you had that Christian accountability where you were walking in fellowship, like the Bible says that we're supposed to be in fellowship with other believers. You guys were bearing each other's burdens and being there for each other. And then when something heavy or difficult in either one of your life came up, you had those deposits of trust and that relationship to be able to deal with that stuff. We've talked about this before, but when people say, "Oh, does anybody have a prayer request?" Like half the people raise their hand and say, "I have an unmentionable," or what do they say? Like, what's the word?
An unspoken.
Yeah. An unspoken. Sorry, I have an unspoken. You don't move from Oregon to St. Pete's and then go to a Bible study the first week and start sharing deep stuff with people that you don't know. That's what we call weird.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, you really can't force relationship. You can't structure it. You can't put it in a box. It's this dynamic flowing thing that develops as two people are invested. And I don't know, it's pretty tough to say we're going to meet at the same time every week and go through this exact schedule, and then authentic relationship comes out of it.
Yeah, Michael, we talked about sometimes we've been in part of a Bible study that's stale. I think there's some people that have an amazing group of guys, but what are some things that you guys have experienced where there's not like real authentic relationship happening and it just keeps going on, like going through the motions, like, oh, we'll meet next week and we're going to continue indefinitely, just kind of punching time and moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've experienced that with the Bible study that I was in, and there was some authenticity there, but we weren't doing life together outside of this group. Now, some of us connected at the group and then got together outside of the group, and there was authentic relationship developing outside, but it can't be the only place. So I was in this group, and it did start to get a little bit stale because the only time we were getting together was when we had this Bible study group. And, it was crazy. It was kind of like pulling teeth to get people to be vulnerable there. And I don't blame them now looking back. Like, show up to this meeting, sit in a circle and be vulnerable. Like, it just doesn't happen without shared experiences of actual life. Like, guys don't sit in a room and be vulnerable unless there's something else that they have to build on through their relationship. I remember one guy showed up who didn't really share anything, and one day just dropped this bomb on us of this awful thing that had happened because he just wanted to get it off his chest. And it just was the wrong context because there wasn't relationship there. And we're all like, whoa, dude, like you probably need a lot of help with that. And then he ended up just like kind of brushing off. He's like, whew, I feel better. All right, let's move on.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I know that's kind of a strange story, but eventually like it did get stale because we didn't have the depth of relationship developing outside of the context of that group. And I eventually walked away from that group.
Yeah, I think, Michael, I love the point that you're making, but I think we have this tendency to maybe throw the baby out with the bathwater completely and just say, I just don't want another Bible study. I want a group of people that I can be real with, and I want them to have similar values. So I want the fact that we're Christians and we love God to be a center point of maybe why we're meeting and who we are at the core.
That's a good point. That's going to lead us to number 2 here, because I think, even just reflecting on what you guys have shared and me leaving the group to go do a little workout routine and prayer with this guy, like not to be punny, but like we're lifting heavy stuff together. We're spotting each other. We're doing this stuff. And there came points where we would talk about heavier stuff in our relationship and stuff going on with our wives or our kids. And we're there to spot each other. We're there to pray for each other. And, there was a big issue that came up later on down the line when we had that trust and that vulnerability was built. It's like, if you're under some weight and you trust a guy, like you're also going to start trusting with other stuff in life. And so, I think that leads to the how do we connect as guys? We've talked about how it feels inauthentic to be a part of maybe a church group of some sort that it's kind of forced, and it's a formula. It's a template that we follow. So how do guys connect? I think one of the things is we do stuff together, like get out and do stuff. Jamie just talked about, and I know Bob's talked about creating a do-votional, not a devotional, a do-votional with guys.
I love it.
So what works for you guys in terms of doing stuff to kind of build in that layer of more trust, more respect, more vulnerability with one another?
Well, heck, I am here for that very reason. Doing EFM together with you guys and also building authentic relationships with you guys, like that to me is a win-win. Because as we struggle through building this thing and figuring out what we're going to do next and pushing this thing forward, we really have gotten to know each other quite a bit, right? You know a guy, how he handles adversity, how he celebrates, how we have different experiences with our families along the way, interruptions and barricades that we hit. So this has been a very helpful and to that point, Chris.
I would answer that question of how to connect is that you find people that are singing the same song. Maybe it's a metaphor that McCluskey uses a lot. Like, you're singing my song. You find people with similar values that care about doing the same things, and then you don't have to force it. It comes natural. People want to talk about things they're excited about, and you're excited about the same type of things. To be frank, like that's the reason why I think we love doing this podcast, because we are passionate about all these conversations that we're having with each other, because we care. We want to have success in these areas, and we struggle, and we encourage each other and lift each other up. I think since I've been in a mastermind with you guys and I've been a part of these groups, I'm never going to not be in one of these groups. But I know when I feel like it's forced, usually you don't see eye to eye or like feel this connection with the other people. If they don't want the same things that you want, it doesn't mean they're bad people or they're any less successful. It's just you got to go and find people that had the same drives. Like, we're passionate about entrepreneurship, and we know that entrepreneurship is not the path for everybody. If you get the right people together, you don't even need somebody to facilitate. There's just magic that happens.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jamie. And I think as I'm listening to you say that, I'm thinking, okay, well, how the heck do you know if someone's aligned with your values and your vision and they're like-minded? I'm thinking back to early on when I first came across that quote of you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I'm thinking like, wow, if that's true right now in my life, I'm not going in the direction I want to go in. And so I need to start thinking about this. And I literally started looking through my contacts and seeing if there were people that could potentially fit those similar passions and similar values that I had. And I started calling people and call it a mandate or whatever. I started asking guys to meet me out for coffee, like just to get to know them. Not like, hey, will you be my best friend on the first call, but hey, let's like connect and grab a cup of coffee and talk. And so as I did that, I got to know some of these guys, and man, I had coffee with a lot of people, and a lot of them I got the feeling were not a good fit for who I was and where I was going. But that's kind of what it looks like sometimes, is just picking up the phone and being intentional and initiating getting together with some people to get to know them.
That's a good point, Michael. That's bold of you to do that, because I think some guys are not as bold like that, to take the initiative and be intentional and just recognizing that there are people around you that maybe aren't helping you go in the right direction. It reminds me of, I had kind of a similar situation. We moved here about 9 years ago to Oregon, and come as a Southern California boy in board shorts and flip flops, and I felt totally out of place for like the first 6 months at least, just not connecting with guys at church well. It's like I didn't hunt, I didn't fish, I didn't wear camo or carry a gun even to church. It was like, I mean, serious. There's guys that pack heat to church, but I'm like, I just didn't connect. And I remember one time what happened. We had some family visiting. Our youngest son Jesse was a baby. He woke up super early, and I decided I'm going to pull him out of the house, let everyone else sleep in. And I went to a coffee shop, and there were some guys about my age. Finishing up a little Bible study. And then I just kind of was like totally just eavesdropping a little bit. And they start talking about business. And they start talking about sports and like politics and like recreation stuff they're going to do. And I'm like, these are my people. I found them. And literally like they got up to leave. I got up and just walked over and introduced myself. I'm like, hey, I'm Chris. I'm new to the area. And man, we should grab coffee sometime. You guys sound like you're cool dudes. And from then, like, cool friendships have developed. In fact, they listen to this podcast. They're in our EFM tribe. But Matt awesome. Taylor, if you're listening, props to you for not shunning me and saying, "Who's this weird guy?"
I bet you they thought that, but once they got,
they probably do.
Super weird. Hearing both of you guys share this is kind of like what I'm feeling like is the elephant in the room. It's just over there, and we're kind of ignoring it. It takes work. I've heard that quote. I don't know who said it. I can just take credit for it myself. It's my quote. If you want something you've never had, you have to do something you've never done. I know there's guys listening to our show that don't have good friends, and they don't have people they can share with. I think the lie would be, like here's a formula. You just try these different things and you'll have these amazing relationships. It takes work. You're building something from scratch. And it probably doesn't come naturally. That's probably why you have no friends. That sounds mean saying it like that.
Hey.
I'm thinking the easy way to sort of check that box is go find a Bible study and show up for 45 minutes every Wednesday night. And then probably be the first person to leave so you don't have to really have a conversation and go deep with anybody or make deposits. Chris, like what you did is you were like, I'm new to this area. I want to meet some guys, and you saw these guys that were talking about things that obviously resonated with you, and so you were bold. Like you did something that most guys would walk away from.
It felt a little weird, not gonna lie. I was like, dude, I'm totally straight. Just want to get coffee with you. But what else is like a way to connect with guys? I mean, there are a lot of guys that I think they do have this myth, like they don't have enough time or whatever. So let's say you don't have enough time. You're not going out there for coffee. But like, I remember just reaching out by text to a couple old college buddies who, we had some great memories, did some great life together. And I was like, man, I'd really like to reconnect with him because he is probably living the same kind of life that I want to. And, there's a couple of good buddies that just every once in a while, we just have a nice text thread, and maybe it's a couple times a year that we dig deep on a conversation together. But that's more of like a longer distance. That's a long distance relationship with a guy.
Romance, long distance. Take some road trips with each other to meet up halfway. Chris, I'm thinking though, this came to my mind. You guys are my best friends, and we don't live in the same zip code. I had to kind of get over this mindset of my best friends needed to be close geographically. And I mean, we see each other pretty regularly in person. I think that's something that has made it a lot easier for me to realize that you can find these like-minded people, and they don't all need to live down the street from you. we can connect regularly because we got 15 minutes and we're taking a car ride and we jump on a call and upload something or help each other through a problem. Like we could never communicate and connect as much and as well as we do if we had that rule that we have to see each other face to face and have coffee with each other.
There's a lot of benefits to it too. You get to know the person from the chest up. So, and
That's
really,
true.
I mean, do you really want to know a guy from the chest down? I don't.
Well, then we're going to have to edit that whole piece.
Just loosening you guys up a little bit. You're getting stiff.
You're in the dark, Michael. Like I can't even see. All I see is like, no, but can you guys, what do you guys think about it sounds weird to have like virtual friends, but talking over the phone, like that's one of the reasons why we do our coaching over the phone, right? We can just get down to business and be real. We don't have to take hours and drive across town and do that stuff.
I think it can't be exclusively just over the phone. There's times when we get together in person that really solidify the conversations that happen in between there. So I would say, like, if you plan on just having somebody be a friend over the phone, it's going to be lacking something. You have to experience some things together, I think.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And again, I think guys just doing stuff together, whether it's like this, we've got our project is the business of EFM, right? That we're moving forward together, and we've had opportunity to dive deep on not just this, but all the stuff that comes from and flows from this, topics that are so important to us. How's our marriage going? How's our relationship with our kids and our business? And that gets into our just being, our spiritual nature too. But yeah, sometimes just guys need to, hey, if you go shoot a gun together, go hike, go fish. Something that just gets you out there and motivated. Sometimes there's so much that happens when you are just doing something, and that's kind of how guys let their guard down, I think, more and talk, because you get that kind of that mutual thing you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it reminds me of this tradition we have. Every time somebody has a baby in our family, among the guys, we have something called a jacket ceremony. The person who just had a baby gets the jacket, and there's this ceremony where we stand around the fire and like just speak life into that guy and lift him up and pray for him, and it's like super powerful. But most of the time we're kind of joking around. We have a drink around the fire, like having a good time, but then it creates this opportunity to speak some truth and some deep encouragement to each other. So you could start a tradition too. That might be something you could do.
That's a cool idea. That reminds me, and I think we touched on this earlier, but I don't know if you guys ever like literally just prayed about this. And I don't know when I maybe stopped praying, but it was maybe around the same time you guys came into my life, which was the answer to prayer. But just getting guys that were like good for me, getting guys that wanted the characteristics that I wanted in a guy, good. That sounded weird. In a relationship, in a friendship, that just helps spur me on, And I think sometimes we just got to stop as guys and say, God, I need some people in my life that are going to really help me. It's going to help my marriage. It's going to help my fatherhood. It's going to help whatever. But praying, being patient, those are things that we need to do. And I think the doors will open.
Totally, Chris. But here's a key thing. And I love your story in the coffee shop, because as you pray and as you're patient, like when God puts you in the same coffee shop as another group that's meeting of guys that you would want to connect with, you don't wait for some other sign. Like, there you go. There it is. There's your answer to prayer. Now jump on it and do your part. That's what I love about that story, is you took action while you were praying and while you're being patient. If you truly want authentic relationships, what I've found in my experience is you can't get the support that you want and the growth that you want without vulnerability. Believe me, I've tried. I remember thinking that I could have the support of a group and have those authentic relationships that I long for without being real myself. And boy, was I wrong. I did not benefit from authentic relationships until I could start being real with people myself.
Yeah. And sometimes, if you want this, dude, be the first one to blink. Share some of that stuff. Because I think sometimes, I've been in enough, say, church-related groups where you kind of feel like you have to have it all together, right? But sometimes it's the guy or two that says, man, I'm not all full here. I'm not okay here. And I need to just share this and be real. I think some guys just wait for that to happen. It's tough. All right. Well, hey, for our McCluskey mentorship moment here, we want to turn it to Chris.
Hey, McCluskey, I'd love to get your input on this. If I'm a guy and I've struggled in this area of connecting with other men, of having authentic relationships with other guys, it feels pretty overwhelming. Where do I start? What could this look like for me?
Yeah, a great question, and I think we plug it into kind of first taking a look at ourselves before we look outside of ourselves to see, well, who else can I connect with out there? Maybe knowing yourself well enough to know, well, what do I really mean by connecting? If I want an authentic relationship, is that with a whole group of guys? Do I want a bunch of friends and I've just never really had a big peer group? Or do I actually find myself as more of a slightly introverted person who would be tickled to death to have one other buddy or two other people that I can actually get together with and be real with? And I think every listener is going to find themselves somewhere along that spectrum. Truly, there are some who just really want a big group of guys to go hang with. And so knowing that energizes them, it feeds them, it challenges them. They can see a little bit of themselves in that guy and a little bit of themselves in that guy. And so they benefit by a whole bunch of people in the mix. Then knowing that's what you begin praying for and actively seeking out. And conversely, the guys who were saying, man, I'd get overwhelmed and I know I'd just shut down. I wouldn't talk in a setting like that, but I sure wish I had one or two other guys that I would hang with. That was the place for them to start. And again, to be praying and then intentionally looking for that one or two guys who are close enough to you in personality, temperament, interests, those kinds of things, because they're on that more one-on-one relationship. They're gonna grow and really authentically connect. So starting there and looking at who are you and what will best serve as iron to sharpen your iron. Then I keep saying praying, but we really do mean that. The thing you're desiring isn't just something you've picked off of a wish list or something. Oh, I think I'll have friendship. I'll take that one. You're recognizing a longing within yourself, a hunger for something, and it's a good. There's nothing wrong or selfish or certainly not sinful or perverse about it. You're wanting a good, and the Lord loves when we come to Him with an intentional prayer for something that would be a good, something that would grow us. So bringing it in an intentional fashion puts your spirit in a state of greater receptivity. You don't have to get real woo-woo about spirituality to know that we are likely to see what we're looking for, to hear what we're listening for. And we're probably going to miss, though it's right there, what we're not looking for, what we're not listening for. So being in an intentional prayerful state during your own private devotions and readings, and times then when you go out to Bible studies or church on Sunday or worship gatherings, or just to get together with guys in any kind of a setting, if you are more attuned spiritually, you are much more likely to pick up on the answers to those prayers that are, in fact, right there. The issue was not that they aren't there. Guys, they're there. Many or few, they're there. You are the common denominator. Are you priming the pump of your receptivity to be able to catch what the Lord wants to bring to you?
Man, I'm taking notes on that one, McCluskey. That's good. So is this you? Are you struggling to connect with other guys and have authentic relationship? Pray. Ask for God's help and take some steps to start looking and be aware of who's around you. Who is close to you in personality and in their values? Will they sharpen you, and will you sharpen them?
Thank you for listening to the Entrepreneurial Family Man Podcast. Visit efmlife.com to connect with us and others like you who are pursuing success in enterprise, family, and marriage.